Welcome to the Politics Chicks podcast. I'm Christy Branham.
And I'm Monica Healy.
Today we're joined by Mark Legvold, candidate for Minnesota Senate District 58. Mark's career has been defined by service as a farmer, military veteran, educator, firefighter, law enforcement officer, and community leader.
One of the things that stood out for us about Mark is that every chapter of his life seems rooted in helping other people. Whether serving his country, teaching students, or advocating for his community, he spent decades putting service before self.
We also wanted to talk about leadership, respect, and community. Recently, Mark spoke out after the cancellation of an event honoring women who died while serving their country, reflecting a deep respect for women, military service, and the people who strengthen our communities every day.
Today, we want our audience to get to know the person behind the campaign and learn more about what he hopes to bring to the Minnesota Senate. Welcome to the show, Mark.
Thank
Yay,
you, Christy.
hi.
Thanks, Monica. I'm really thrilled to be here.
Good to have
We're
you.
so excited to have you. We've been looking forward to this interview because we've gotten to know you a little bit. We've met you at the event that we hosted, and we've had a couple conversations, and you're such an engaging person. I can't wait for our listeners to get to know you a little bit better.
And let me just say that event was so much fun. What a blast. You guys put on a great party.
We had fun, too.
Yeah.
It was so out of our wheelhouse to organize something like that, but we were happy with how it turned out. We were glad you were there.
It was awesome.
Yeah, and we were saying that your speech was one of the barnstormers
Absolutely.
of the event. So, yeah, for sure.
I try. With hair like mine, you got to know how to speak.
Well done.
Well, why don't we give our listeners an opportunity to get to know you a little bit better? So tell us about what it was like growing up on a Minnesota farm, and what did that experience do to shape you into who you are today?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So we moved out to the farm in 1976. Great time for Dad to just say, we're going to buy a farm. He was an educator, drove up to Richfield every day, taught elementary school kids, then came home and we worked on the farm. And Dad grew up on a farm, and I also was a farmer as I was growing up, kind of pass it along generation to generation. So when Dad's dad would come out, Ole, we knew how to work
Ole.
hard. Of course, there's an Ole
Tell us
Legvold
you're
out there.
Minnesotan without telling us you're Minnesotan.
I know. The other grandpa's name is Gus, so we got it covered on both ends. But loved being outside, loved being out working on the farm. We had cattle that we were raising, plus corn, soybeans, hay. So my summers really consisted of riding around on the back of a hay rack with family primarily, baling hay. We had a neighbor that also raised cattle. So we all pitched in as a community, helped one another, put a bunch of hay in both of the barns so we could make it through the winter, learned how to feed the cattle, run the tractors. I think at age 12, I was out plowing. Because you're just going back and forth and it's not that hard. So it sets you out and away you go. Just had a really, really great time, but learned some valuable lessons that just kind of continued to serve me. Love to work hard every single day. There was always that great feeling of you put in a good, hard day of work. And at the end of the day, you feel good that you got something accomplished. And that's one thing I love about farming today. You can look back on a day's worth of work and actually see you accomplished something.
There's a lot of Minnesota that is devoted to farmland, and my husband and I come from farming families, and I can't imagine farming. It is a tough way of life. And what do you want to tell people who don't understand what it was like? What was growing up in rural Minnesota that might be misunderstood?
Yeah, it's there are joys with it, and there's also hardships, right? You don't have the neighborhood full of kids with all the friends. If you want to visit with your friends, you're going into town, hanging out. Usually that meant biking down a gravel road on my 10-speed. You learn how to be pretty quick with steering when that's the case, but you don't have friends next door, but you have a whole lot of nature around you. So some joys, some challenges there. The other part about growing up on a farm is you learn what running on a pretty tight budget looks like. Dad was an educator, which means, they don't make a whole lot. He's driving up to Richfield every day, driving home. And, we learned how to keep good track of a dollar bill and work really, really hard to earn them. And at the end of the day, we had a good corn operation, a good soybean operation, and a good cattle operation. So I learned about risk, reward, and diversification of your efforts so that you're not relying on one thing or another. If the cattle were doing really, really great, usually corn and soybeans weren't. but that balanced out the risk and the reward. So running a farm, whether it's a small family farm or it's the big corporations, they're thin margins. There's a lot of risk to it.
And just to be clear, you're still farming today. Like you just posted about the cost of diesel last week on
Yeah,
your Facebook.
yeah.
So,
Planting season, those beasts get pretty thirsty for diesel. Just finished up planting. The corn's up. We'll have knee-high corn by the 4th of July out on the farm, which is a wonderful thing to have happen because you know that some of the risk is going to pay off most of the time, if pending hail, knock on wood. Uh, but it's a struggle. Last year, I sold soybeans out of the field right at the end of the season for the same price that soybeans were in 1978.
Wow.
And
oh my
that's
gosh.
that's a thin margin, and the cost of diesel keeps going up, and the cost of fertilizer keeps going up, and yet our commodity prices aren't rebounding. There's a lot that we can do to help farmers, but starting out with reestablishing our markets internationally, that would help farmers the most.
So, did the tariffs impact the pricing on the soybeans? Is that why they were so low?
Yeah, when your biggest customer is China, and suddenly you say we're going to tariff you like crazy, they stop buying soybeans from us and they start buying soybeans from Brazil.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
that means we lose a major market. That's probably what impacted farming and soybean farming, especially.
What lessons in farm life would you like to see in elected leaders? And you already mentioned a bunch of those things that our leaders really could take to heart.
Yeah, it's getting up in the morning and doing the hard work that you need to. Sometimes your boots get stuck in something that's sticky and doesn't smell really good, and you got to keep on working and get the job done. But you also learn how to cooperate. I talked about what it's like in the summertime to hay as a community, which means, the neighbor owns the hay baler, we own the hay racks, and all the labor is provided. We share that effort. You learn how to cooperate with people, and you might disagree about how to get stuff done. But at the end of the day, you got to bale the hay and you got to put it in the barn, or nobody lives through the winter. So it really taught me about how to be cooperative in a community and focus on the task that needs to get done and do the work, regardless of whether you agree with the person or not.
Okay, I just learned something new because I didn't realize that you did not own all your own equipment and that it was a community effort for you to bale hay. I mean, you live in a somewhat red part of the state. Your neighbors may not think politically the same way you do, and yet you guys have to kind of overcome that in order to work together because it's a survival thing, correct?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Again, Christy and Monica, this is one of the joys of running for office right now is I've learned how to get along with people that disagree with me politically or philosophically. Uh, You have to do that just to get any mission accomplished or any job done. My neighbor has a bunch of Trump stuff up in his shed. Um, but I still go down there and talk with him like human beings, neighbor to neighbor. At the end of the day, if he's got a flat tire on the side of the road, I'll stop to help him. But I also know he'll stop to help me. Politics is one thing, but being neighbors, I think that's what we need to get back to in our political
Yes.
discussions. How can we learn to get along? And I've found that knocking on people's doors out in the middle of what you would consider a red community and have great conversations with folks that still have their Trump stuff up. But at the end of the day, in this country, we got to learn how to love one another, regardless. That's how we get to move forward. As much anger as we have about the policies and the politics and the cruelty and the chaos, at the end of the day, we got to hold the elected people responsible for making those decisions. But the voters, we still need to care about them as neighbors.
I think Minnesota has really exemplified exactly that. And that's where the whole term neighboring came from during Operation Metro Surge, where we take care of each other. It doesn't matter what they look like, what they believe, what church they go to. We are going to take care of our neighbors.
Absolutely. I'm running on 5 core values, and the last one's probably the one that served me the best, and that's everybody deserves to be treated with care and respect. And I know we'll talk more about that as we go along, but I learned that growing up on the country road and sharing equipment with my neighbors and getting the hay done.
Okay, well, tell us about those. Since you mentioned it, what are your 5 core values you're running on?
Yeah, absolutely. They were all shaped by the different jobs that I've done, especially my time on the farm, the military, and working in public schools. We get up in the morning, we work hard. I think Minnesotans like to work hard and see what they've accomplished, but they also believe that they want their government to work hard for them. We want our public people to act with integrity, but we also expect our neighbors to act with integrity. So that's my second core value, always act with integrity. We believe in serving others. This has been a winter like we have never seen in Minnesota. But we've seen how
Yes.
Minnesotans step up, they serve others in their community, and that's what we want from our public servants as well. Valuing learning as a recovering educator and as someone that taught kids, taught airmen in the military, and tried to work in the community to teach people to be better leaders. We value learning in Minnesota. We put our money where our people are, especially our public schools. But it also means we value learning enough to listen to experts, listen to economists, listen to doctors, listen to scientists so that we make the best decisions possible. And we're not relying on conspiracy theorists to make
Amen.
decisions. Yeah. And
Thank
then,
you.
yes, absolutely. And then the last one's probably the most important. Treat everyone with care and respect. It doesn't matter where you live, what you do for a living, who you love, treat everyone with care and respect.
I taught public
I love
school
that.
for 30 years, and the last decade or so, I always told the kids, we have one rule because it encompasses everything else. Be kind.
Mhm.
If you are being kind, that truly means no other rule is needed. So, and
Yes.
thank
Absolutely.
thank you for your service as a public school teacher.
Gosh, yeah, absolutely. You too. It's hard work. Yeah, but again, it's kind of like baling hay all day. You go home tired, but you feel like you accomplished something because you impacted a kid's life.
I loved it.
Well, and thank you for your service in the military because that's where we're going next. You spent 3 decades serving in the US military. So, why don't you tell us what inspired you to serve and how that's impacted the person that
Oh,
you've become?
Christy, the inspiration to serve came on a turkey barn just outside of Northfield in February. It's cold up there. I'd left my first college. I was not a good student right out of high school. I thought if you just work hard, things are going to go okay. And so I liked working hard. So I left my first college, started working in construction, roofing a turkey shed in February up on a hill.
Huh.
This is
Yikes.
cold. I needed a different way of going about life. And so found an Air Force recruiter and said this would be a great way to shape my life, learn a new skill, see part of the world, have some adventure, and then come back to Northfield and get back to work on the farm. So joined the military in 1990. Went down to Lackland Air Force Base through basic training, and they picked my job for me. Now imagine signing up to do something for 4 years, but you don't know what it is. You're just going to go on this adventure. And I'll let the government tell me what I'm going to do for 4 years.
That's quite the leap of
Wow.
faith.
It was a
Yeah,
leap
it
of
is.
faith. Absolutely. I just knew I wanted to serve my country and I knew I wanted a different way of life than where I was heading. And they assigned me to be a firefighter, which was such a great job. So I learned how to be a firefighter, got stationed in Altus, Oklahoma, got married there, had my first
Hmm.
child, moved up to Alaska, had another child up there, all serving as a firefighter. And really learned another part of what hard work looked like. Hard work, learning how to be a good airman and a good firefighter. It really, really helped shape me.
Well, that perfectly
You know,
segues into my next question because you had a number of leadership roles. So, how does that experience teach you about responsibility, leadership?
Yeah, when you're just barely 20 and you're entering the military, you know a whole lot, right? You're super, super smart, especially smarter than your parents.
Right.
But they teach you pretty
exactly.
quick. You don't know much. But I showed up at my first fire department and had wonderful mentors. I had wonderful, wonderful trainers and people that had been in the career field for a whole lifetime, teaching me how to be a good firefighter, but also teaching me how important it is to work together as a crew of people because your life is going to depend on the people to your left and to your right. So you better treat them well. We're a family at the end of the day. Uh, you got to treat the people to your left or your right like your brothers and like your sisters because you're going to rely on them to save your life someday. And there really was a sense of urgency. That taught me about leading myself, becoming a smart firefighter, but leading others just on that small team. And eventually, as you stick with the job, pretty soon you're leading a pretty big organization. It was a good segue, but it's a step by step by step process.
It should be noted the military actually does that very well. At least they did. I don't know if it's been broken, the whole system's been broken, but they do such a good job of testing and analyzing recruits to see what their strengths are and putting them in positions where they're going to succeed. And I think that that's probably why you had that experience. They could see in you that you fit this mold and that you would thrive there. So I think that's really cool.
I would like to think that they saw something, but they were also very purposeful in the development of me as an airman, as an individual. And as long as you bring that subject up, I have such good faith in the young men and women and the people that I left behind in my unit when I retired 3 years ago. They're good human beings with a huge
Yeah.
heart. And I know that they're put in difficult situations. They've been put in difficult situations for years. And I know that it is hard right now, but their heart remains. They're still good people. When you saw the pictures of the National Guard showing up during Metro Surge this past winter, they didn't show up to oppress their neighbor. They showed up with hot chocolate. They did the
I know,
same.
and handing out hot chocolate and donuts.
Yeah, they did the same thing after George Floyd was murdered. They protected the neighborhoods. They protected their neighbors during the evenings. And then they showed up on the Capitol lawn during the heat of those days, handing out water to the protesters. I was so proud to be a part of that organization because I know it's heart. I know they're developing good leaders, but they're also developing good human beings. And those human beings remain today.
Well, and you have such a personal relationship from your own service, but you shared with us before we started recording that you have another family member. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, my stepson, Tyler, youngest stepson, he's going to enlist in the same organization that I spent most of my military career in here in the Minnesota Air National Guard. So it's out of the 6 kids in our blended family, we got 5 grandkids. Um, some of them explored getting into military service, and Tyler's kind of pulling the trigger today, and he's going to enlist. And the great thing is he's going to be part of the flying organization, and he's working with one of the firefighters that I worked with for a good long time. So it's kind of this my fire department family and my family are merging a little bit in this organization that I cared so much about.
Full
Well, it's
circle
almost like
moment.
your life is coming full circle.
Christy, I am seeing that more and more today. It's like I'm going to run for Minnesota State Senate. What do you need? What are the characteristics that we really want in our senators and the people in public service? You want a lifetime of experience. You want them to be able to see a
Mhm.
bunch of different perspectives. You want a diverse experiences that have shaped their core values. I mean, I've done a little bit of everything, um, and so it all seems like it's all coming together. First and foremost, taking care of people, and I still have that ethos today. So it feels like, yeah, everything is coming full circle in this run too.
So, you also served as a law enforcement officer. So, why don't you give us a little bit of how that also impacted who you've become?
Absolutely. And this, in order to go from being a firefighter to doing cop work in the military, it's kind of, I got to fill in the blanks between 20 years as a firefighter and then how did I end up going into security forces in the military. My career, my military career and my education career, um, the cool thing about being in the Air National Guard is you get to do 2 different jobs. In my case, 3 because I was farming on the side. But for 10 years of my military career, I was what they would call a traditional Guard member. And that means 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year, I would do a civilian job. That's when I was working in St. Paul schools. On the weekends and during deployments, I was a firefighter. It was great. Loved the work, loved my brothers and sisters. But then on Monday morning, there you are with the kids, helping the runny noses and helping them learn at the same time. It was all good public service. But in 2007, after I'd finished my master's degree, I was working in a public school in an assistant principal position. The Guard came back and said, "Hey, how would you like to be the full-time fire chief?" And so 2007, I traded in the tie for camouflage and went back to
Mm.
active duty, assigned to the same unit I was traditional Guard in. So right here at the airport. And I did that until 2013 when my fire department closed, found all my firefighters new jobs, new occupations, and stuck around. And they said, "You don't have any people anymore. Would you like to work with people?" I said, "That is my jam. I love working with people." They said, "How'd you like to be a cop?" I went, "Oh, that's going to be a stretch for me." Uh, but they needed some good leadership and I needed the opportunity to work with human beings again. So at age 45, got a phone call, middle of the day. They said, "Hey, we got a school you can go to. Great. When does it start?" I said, "In 2 days, you have to be down in San Antonio, Texas." So
Wow.
Lisa and I weren't
Yikes.
married yet. She packed up her house and 2 of her boys, moved out to my place. I mean, military spouse, you talk about public service, right? But she
Right.
packed up her boys, her dog, moved out to my place and took care of the one kiddo I still had at home. And I took off for Texas and stayed there for 3 months, learned how to be a member of security forces. So that's our law enforcement and security division here on base, and came back and strapped on the gear every single day. We armed up every single day to guard the base and make sure people were safe and following the rules and the laws that we have here.
Well,
And
that's another big leap of faith to jump
yeah,
into that and
absolutely.
mid-career, midlife to just make that leap. That's impressive.
It was really, really tough. It was like kind of starting over, but in the military, you keep your rank when you go someplace. So I outranked my instructors and was older than all of them. But yeah, it was a huge leap of faith. And I knew that it would be a challenge for me physically, but it would also be a challenge for me mentally and emotionally. I learned how to appreciate the work that our law enforcement officers do out on the streets in our cities, in our counties, our sheriff's department, and in the military. I learned how to really appreciate the hard work and all of the learning that they have to do just to do that well. But I also learned how important it is if you are going to be charged with the use of deadly force. You need to know when to use it, how to use it, where to use it when it's appropriate, and all the things that you do before you even pull that gun out of its holster. And I checked in with
Hmm.
my folks. That was one of the key responsibilities as a leader throughout the shift. And at the beginning of the shift, before they're handed a weapon, needed to know if they had a good meal, if things were okay at home, if they were getting enough sleep, if they were mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and physically able to carry that weapon, because we're all doing this hard work together. We don't have that check out in our public streets, do we?
I was just about to bring that up, the fact that you're talking about all of the care and fail safes that are there, including the leadership checking in with people before handing them a weapon. And to see what happened in our streets in Minnesota twice, not once, but twice.
3 times,
Um,
one non-lethal.
right.
Mhm.
It's very troubling to even think about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And I am in favor of the Second Amendment. I think it's important, but I also think there's
we
some
are too.
guardrails that we have to have in place as a community, to make sure that the weapons that have no business being on the city streets aren't being carried by people that are inherently dangerous to carry lethal force.
Well, since you bring that up, I'm going to veer off script a little bit because recently there was gun legislation brought to the floor that, well, it passed the Senate and then it didn't go anywhere in the House. So where would you have stood on that?
Yeah, that bill that got passed through the Senate and then got stuck in a drawer in the House, I would have voted for that. It put some good guardrails on protecting our city streets and protecting our school children. And that's something that we can agree on. And not everybody had an easy vote on that. It would have been a tough one, because we're limiting something that people are very, very passionate about. But at the end of the day, as legislators, if you're not focusing on how to keep people safe in the city streets, you're really not doing a primary job and a primary responsibility of that position.
And one of the reasons that that bill came about was Senator Zainab Mohammed introduced it after the school shooting in her district. And so our next question kind of segues into your work in education. How do you feel about the fact that they buried that bill, which was written by someone in response to a school shooting? How did that fail our school children?
It didn't just fail our school children, it failed our entire political structure. Another key core value, right? Act with integrity. And when you just put something in the drawer, if you use procedure to limit voices from being heard, I know it would have been a tough vote for a lot of folks. But at the end of the day, your integrity should guide the fact that that should have seen the floor in the House, and they should have had an up-down vote on it.
Yeah.
It's not serving our school kids well. People didn't want to go on the record with it. I know the guy that's serving me in the House right now. I know how he would have voted on that because he's a Second Amendment purist. To me,
Hmm.
pure adherence to the Second Amendment. I had a guy tell me that he should be able to own an F-15 fighter jet if he could afford it, because the Second Amendment allows him to. And yeah, that's not my barometer of freedom. I think we can turn the dials one way or another on things, and getting an up-down vote on that one would have been a way of finding out where the dials would have been turned.
I'm a firm believer that your freedom should not impede upon someone else's freedom.
That.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And yet we're seeing our individual freedoms exercised every day, and it's hard work here in Minnesota, isn't it?
Yes. And then after the military service, you went into education because you just, I don't know if you were a glutton for punishment or what.
Yeah. So it was
Talking to two teachers here, but
I
Yeah.
so I was serving traditionally in the Air National Guard and worked in the elementary school on the east side of St. Paul, uh, kindergarten through six, science and gifted ed, and then had a wonderful, wonderful mentor. Shirley Pickett was her name. This is one of those things. When you listen to smart women and they give you good advice and you follow it, things usually turn out pretty darn well. Shirley said, "Hey, you got some leadership potential. You should become a school administrator." Maybe she didn't like me, but maybe she saw something, right?
For
So I
all my
started
years
doing a
of
lot of
teaching, I would never be an administrator, so bless you for that.
it was good. It was really good hard work. But I went back to school and got my master's degree in school leadership and administration, finished my principal's license at the University of Minnesota, and tried working my way in. And I was just in that AP position. Still loved working with kids. It was a struggle every single day. You saw what kids were struggling with, especially in St. Paul. Going on a home visit to visit a dad and a son who's living in a hotel because they lost their home. And yet
Yeah.
the dad still was just as passionate about making sure his son got to school and learned every single day. Our kids that are living in poverty are facing insurmountable circumstances in their life, and yet they still show up to get an education and they have to work so hard at it. It's another reason I am so in favor of feeding our kids at school because I
Yes.
saw how hungry some of my
Absolutely.
kids were when they showed up on Monday.
I don't know how anybody can be
Absolutely.
opposed to, feeding a kid. Yeah, any opposition to that just baffles me. So,
We're one of the only westernized countries that does not have universal school breakfast and school lunch, too. I'd like to bring that into the conversation
but
because most
Minnesota leading the
European.
way.
Yep,
hmm
yep, we are.
Yep. I
So,
think that was really a good way of making sure that not only are we feeding our kids, right, so that they can show up and have food in their tummy and so their brains are working more effectively, but it also shows those kids when they show up to school, this is a place that cares about you and respects you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
It broke my heart when kids just got a cheese sandwich going through the line.
yeah.
Yeah, sad.
so quite the varied career you have had and many different roles, many different hats. So, what prompted you to decide to run for office?
Thanks. Yeah. So retired from the military about 2.5, 3 years ago, and I still have this heart for public service. I've done some jobs where you show up, you look at what's dangerous or wrong, and you do something about it. Firefighters do something about something that's dangerous. Law enforcement officers do something about things that are going on in their communities that's wrong. And I served during the first Trump administration as the command chief. I was a senior enlisted leader in my organization. Had 1,200 people, shepherded them through COVID, where one person in the shop believed COVID was a hoax and wasn't going to wear a mask, and another person had a child at home with health issues. And I had to help them balance their emotions while making sure they were following the rules, right?
Yeah.
It was hard work and we got through it. We got through it as a family and it was still tough. So getting out of the military, I still had a heart for service, still wanted to teach people how to be good leaders. But when I saw what was going on in our federal politics again, when Trump got reelected, start looking at what's going on in the state government as well. I've always been a believer that you have to do what you can, where you can, how you can. And to stand by and watch something dangerous and wrong happen, whether it's at the state level or at the federal level, and not do everything I can, that doesn't fit the core values that I grew up developing, and it didn't fit where I was in my life at that time.
I think we're seeing more and more of that. People that are responding to what they're seeing by running for office, people that never would have before. And Christy and I have said for a long time that people like you that have experience in the real world, not just the political world, are so valuable as leaders. And I think we
Yes.
need more of that.
Yeah,
Yes.
I agree. It takes a very, very diverse life to make a good public servant because you can really, really empathize where people are in their lives. I mean, I've lost sleep at night because I was worried about making the next house payment. It's awful.
Yeah.
How can you empathize if you've never been in that situation?
Yes. And you're from southern Minnesota, so it's fairly agricultural area of the state, fairly rural area of the state. And so your district has some pretty unique needs compared to someone, say, from the Twin Cities or even someone from up north in the Iron Range. So what do you believe District 58 needs most from its next senator?
Great question. I think District 58 needs from their next senator the same thing every place is needing, and that's somebody that shows up to work with the core values that most Minnesotans share. That's why I'm running on core values. District 58
Mhm.
is pretty darn unique. We just have that transition zone between the suburbs and the rural communities in Minnesota. It's northern New Prague, Lonsdale, Northfield, Farmington, southern precinct of Rosemont, all the way out to the Mississippi River on both the north and the south side of Hastings. I got a lot of
Yeah.
rural country, but I also have suburban and
Mhm.
small towns. And so all of those different communities have similar needs in that they want somebody that reflects their core values, but they also have very unique needs. So you have to show up ready to do the work and ready to understand what those communities really need. And it starts with listening and understanding and just being a good neighbor.
So if voters only remember one thing about your campaign, what do you want that to be?
Great question. If voters could remember one thing about my campaign, it's going to be he won in November because he showed up to the campaign with a
That's
lot of,
awesome.
yep. So they'll remember that of this campaign, but they won't remember it just because I was a Democrat running in a year where we're expecting a lot of Democrats to do well. They'll remember it because we kicked this campaign off over a year ago, just started getting organized. We've been running since August. So they're going to remember about me that I ran on the big core value of we work hard. In District 58, in the rural communities, in our suburbs, people are working hard every single day. And I bring that work ethic to the campaign all winter long, knocking doors when it was 24 degrees or better, because your hand freezes if it's colder than that. And showing
Right.
up in the farmyards and having hard conversations with people that maybe still have that Trump sign up in their garage, or maybe they just took it down last week. Having the courage to show up and have the conversations with neighbors. That's what they'll remember.
Out of curiosity, are you noticing because I live close to Buffalo, so we will drive out, past Corcoran, and a lot of the homes out there that once had Trump signs and tattered Trump flags waving for years, they're now gone. Are you seeing more of that down your way also?
Yeah, I am seeing that, and maybe it's just the fact the flag finally got too tattered to recognize, or maybe they've had a change of heart. I do know one house that's in my district. They've had a Trump sign on their front yard. It's gotten a little bit smaller, then it got a little bit smaller, and now that big piece of plywood that used to have a smaller sign on it, it's just painted flat white. I've got a nice blue sign I'd love to put on that for them. But it does
Yeah.
Christie show the evolution of people's thoughts. And we, as good hearted Minnesotans, need to understand these are still our neighbors. We might not have agreed with either of the votes that they made, all three of the votes that they made in some of these elections, but we got to love our neighbor and give people the ability to change their mind and come back and say, maybe that was a mistake. Maybe I'm glad I made that vote, but now I'm just hurting like heck. And I'm looking for something better in our politics. So we got to treat people with care and respect at the end of the day.
What would be your top priority upon being elected?
Mm. My top priority kind of fits my employment resume, and that is all of it all the time. I've done a little bit of everything, and so there's so much to do. But top priority is show up to the Senate, build relationships. Obviously, I want our agriculture and our ag community to have a strengthened, diversified economy, one where we grow such great crops in Minnesota. We feed our people. But we also use our commodity crops to produce some energy right here in Minnesota instead of shipping it off. I want to make sure our public schools are strong. As a recovering educator, that's one of my key priorities. I've got grandkids that are going to be going to school in District 58. So this is a personal thing for me, but it all comes down to making sure that Minnesota is an affordable place to live. I talk to folks in rural communities. They want their kids to be able to move home, and their kids want to move home. Uh, and I mean home, not to mom and dad's basement, but to the house down the road that the kids want to purchase. And right now, it's unaffordable for them to commute. It's unaffordable for them to buy that house. And it's unaffordable for them to even put food on the table. So we got to address those basic needs.
Yeah, and I want to circle back because there's a through line through every conversation that we've had with you, every interaction that we've had with you is about treating people with respect. We just talked about that. Um, you recently spoke out about the cancellation of an event honoring women who died serving our country. And Monica and I fondly call you an honorary chick because you've spoken so strongly and so passionately about respecting women and the contribution that they make to society. And we're going to credit Lisa with part of that because she's she's definitely a good influence, but we suspect that a lot of it is intrinsic with you. So why don't you share a little bit about that? Because I could tell you felt pain from that event was canceled.
Yes, we'll circle back to giving my wife some credit. Absolutely, I wouldn't be where I am in this campaign without her. She manages this campaign. She's passionate. She keeps telling people, I I want him to be my senator. And it's not because
I
I'm her
love that.
husband. I think it's just because she thinks I'd be a good one and I'd serve people, bring the heart to it. So back to the downright anger that I have about how military service members that gave their life for their country, how this new movement is saying we can't give them honor and respect if they're women or because they're women, because that somehow takes away from the honor and respect for all. Military service is a great way of serving a great country. I still believe our country is a great place because of the people that are in it. So taking away the honor and the respect due to the women that gave their lives and gave service to the country, yeah, that's hard. That's a personal thing for me. I lost a really, really dear friend to cancer caused by the burn pits. She was a fantastic mentor. She was a wonderful, wonderful human being. And so by saying we're going to take away that ability to lay a wreath at somebody like her grave, yeah, it hurt. It was a personal point of pain for me, and it showed how low that we have to step, where we can't honor one person or one group without feeling like we're dishonoring another person. Honor, decency, and kindness is not a zero-sum game.
Yeah.
The more you show, the more you get.
We're interviewing Christy Janigo on Thursday, who's another candidate for Senate who herself is a veteran. So I'm interested to hear her take on that as well.
I'm going to give props to Christy. She is a strong military veteran running for a really, really tight Senate race up there. And I cannot think of a more bright, capable, wonderful human being to represent that area. It just shows the caliber of candidates that we're getting out there.
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
great.
And she'll be my senator.
Oh, aren't you so lucky?
Yeah, we're in Maple Grove.
The DFL party has done a great job diversifying the people that are running. We've got veterans, we've got farmers, we've got teachers, folks that step away from a career that's usually pretty darn hard and want to do this public service work. And I think Christy's a fantastic candidate. I'm looking forward to serving with her.
She thinks very highly of you too. You two have been, I know that you've been communicating and kind of partnering on things. So we're excited to interview her on Thursday.
I think that'll be great.
Yeah. And you've been such a strong supporter of women in general. At our event, you told a story about a woman who was your superior, I believe.
She was in a subordinate position to me, but she was still a mentor of mine. Yeah.
Okay.
I learned so much from her. She had so much different life experience all poured into one human being. And she had been serving for a really, really long time, still continues to serve today. Came out as an open lesbian woman serving in the military right at the tail end of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. So right before it was repealed. That takes some risk.
Yes.
But man, I tell you, she's got courage in spades. Works in the security and law enforcement agency on base, and that takes some risk to work in a male dominated field as a woman and as a Native American serving in the United States military. Sometimes that's difficult, but no community honors military veterans more than the Native American community. So to her, it was a big point of pride, not just for her, but for the community. And we had a lot of long conversations because I'd go out and I'd check on her when she was working post, and a lot of long conversations about her life journey. And if I needed perspective on things that I, as a man, as a white straight male, could not understand or wanted to understand more about, she always knew I approached her with an open heart and a mind that wanted to learn her perspective so that I could serve her well. And I learned so much, respect her so much.
There's a lot in what you just said there about learning from each other and learning from other people's perspectives. So thank you for bringing that to your campaign and just to humanity in general.
I try hard at it every single day. Some days I don't get it right, but I need to learn how to listen a whole lot more than I speak.
I love hearing that because I think a lot of times we forget that it is straight white men who often have the least number of barriers to cross to actually be successful.
But you're not a billionaire, so.
Right. But
I certainly don't want to be one either.
I don't think I would either. And I say that honestly because it is just it's too much of everything. Like when you have too much of everything, you don't have the opportunity to find joy in something that's few and far between. I think
Yeah.
that is underrated.
And to me, you lose the value that you put on relationships and relationship building when you feel like everything's transactional, right? And
Yeah,
to me, I've been building relationships professionally. It's just been such a gift to be able to do what I have done in my life because everything has been about building relationships with people and trying to understand where they're at so I could lead them well. And right now, this is a fantastic opportunity to continue to build relationships, continue to build community, and try and serve people as best I possibly can as their next senator.
absolutely.
So, Mark, the world is kind of wonky right now, a little topsy turvy. What's giving you hope?
Man, I tell you what, Monica, what gives me hope every day is when I'm out knocking on people's doors and having good conversation. Hope comes from the people in our country. It doesn't come from the policies and the politics. And the more people, the more human beings you meet, you listen to their life circumstances. Sometimes you have disagreements, and they tell me I'm kind of middle of the road. I'm unlike everybody, and I get the opportunity to reassure 'em. Most people are pretty middle of the road. Most people want government that works, government that's a little bit boring and doesn't have the high drama and the chaos and the cruelty that we're seeing right now. So what gives me hope is that there are more people out there that believe that we can get back to kindness, decency, and some sense of calmness in our government and our politics, so that people can just focus on getting up in the morning, going to work, doing something that they love, and coming home to the people they care about, love in their community. So that gives me hope every single day. This is a joyful run. I am loving this every single day because there's always hope every single morning.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And why don't we talk about where people can learn more about your campaign, get connected with you, find out how they can help out and volunteer?
Yeah. If people want to learn more about me, they can go to my campaign's website. It's Legvold, the number 4, mnsenate58.com. That's Legvold, the number 4, mnsenate, the number 58.com. I've got all my core values there. You can learn how I was shaped and influenced, but I've also got some key policy points that I'm passionate about. And otherwise, shoot, hit me up on Google. I hear that thing works pretty darn well.
Yep.
Well, and we'll make sure to put links in our show notes too, so people can find you through the podcast too.
Love that.
Mark, thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing your story with our audience. We really appreciate the time. We know that you're busy between running for Senate and running the farm and all your other responsibilities. And it really was a privilege to talk to you today. And we just feel so honored to have you here.
Thanks to you both. This has just been fantastic.
Good to have you on.
And keep up the
Yeah.
good work that you're doing.
We're trying. To our listeners, if you are finding meaning in the stories we're sharing, if something moves you, challenges you, makes you see the world a little differently, please like, comment, or share. It helps more than you know.
And follow us everywhere at The Politics Chicks on Substack, Threads, Blue Sky, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook.
Thanks for being a part of our community. Keep shining your light so we can find each other in the dark.
And remember, we're stronger together. Thank you so much, Mark, for being here today.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.